technology on digital terrestrial and video broadcasting. It was at a time when we started these activities in Europe. So at that point in time, the US were a bit ahead of our schedule. Wayne received quite a number of awards as part of writing many papers, including the prestigious Masaru Ibuka Award in 2006. So in fact, we're also in a city which is also a little bit of a legend in TV, because television technology has been developed in the 20s and 30s in Berlin as well. So welcome, a legend in TV, in a legend in TV, about the legend of TV.
Well, thank you for the very kind introduction, Dietmar. I really appreciate that. I also want to thank my CE Society colleague here, Sharon Peng, who of course will be our new, there's a president-elect, I believe now, of the Board of Governors, and she's going to help me by punching the slides here. So if the slides don't come out right, it's all Sharon's fault. IEEE colleagues, it's truly an honor to present reflections on the past 50 years in the consumer electronics industry, where we've seen cycles of innovation and consumer behavior repeated time and time again. I think there's something to learn from the march of technology. And I also believe very strongly that advances in consumer electronics are only made after significant investments in solid research and development. And even then, R&D isn't enough. The tech roadside is littered with inventions that may have seemed like great ideas, but there wasn't a compelling product or the right mix of price and promotion. Success in consumer electronics is more than just a great technology. It takes innovation matched with a better experience for the consumer and the right mix of product, price, and promotion to score a winning goal. I'm pleased to spend a few minutes of this short reflection looking back at where we've come from. However, after a half century in this business, I know that it's the road ahead that really matters. How did I get started? I started in the business right out of university training and went to work for one of the biggest names in electronics during the 1950s and 60s, the mighty Radio Corporation of America. I started in the defense electronics side of RCA and soon moved over to consumer electronics, beginning with work on intermediate frequency amplifiers and tuners for the research group that was plugged into RCA's Home Instruments division. This was the early 1960s when UHF tuners were not yet built into every TV sold. Armed with a 1962 electrical engineering degree from the University of Wisconsin and a 1964 master's in engineering from the University of Pennsylvania, I moved on to Chicago and to Zenith 50 years ago when color TV was still in its infancy. And while I worked on literally hundreds of different projects and products, I'm most proud of the work that went into creating and deploying North America's advanced television system. Today, an initiative called the Future of Broadcast Television is building on that effort, working with Standard Settings Group here in Europe, in Asia, and in the Americas to pursue next-generation digital TV standards. I've been a member of the Board of Directors of the Advanced Television Systems Committee, ATSC, for 26 years, and have also been deeply involved for decades with the U.S. Consumer Electronics Association. I'm proud to have served as chair of the CEA Video Systems Committee since 1998, as past chair of CEA's Technology Standards Council, and as a charter member of CEA's Academy of DTV Pioneers. Of course, all of this work on advanced television started for me at Zenith, and our efforts to develop the technology behind the ATSC DTV transmission standard called vestigial sideband, or VSB for short. Zenith also played a major role in the Grand Alliance in the United States that merged competing advanced TV systems to create a best of the best, all-digital broadcasting standard. And that was the focus of the U.S. standard setting process, to identify the best of the best HDTV standard for American consumers and the 1,600 TV stations spread across all 50 U.S. states. ATSC technology has been adapted elsewhere, of course, in Canada, Mexico, and some Central American countries, and most notably outside the Americas in South Korea. Speaking of Korea, as most of you may recall, global technology leader LG Electronics acquired a controlling interest in Zenith in 1995. The LG-Zenith merger was completed in 1999. And our Zenith R&D lab carries on today, continuing to develop advanced new transmission and reception techniques for over-the-air digital TV to mobile and fixed receivers. Among the most rewarding experiences of my career and those associated with IEEE, including leadership roles in the ICCE, first known as the IEEE Spring Conference, which was born near my home base of Chicago back when there was a spring consumer electronics show. Now those meetings take place under the banner of the multi-location ICCE, the terrific conference we're all attending here in Berlin. As Dietmar mentioned, I was privileged and honored to have served for 35 years as the editor of the IEEE Transactions on Consumer Electronics. That meant sifting through mountains of technical papers, giving me an insider's view of the evolution of consumer electronics technology for decades. Today, I'm honored to represent the IEEE CE Society on the board of directors of the ATSC, which has continued its intensive work after the U.S. adopted its digital television standard in 1996. Today, in fact, ATSC is working on next-generation transmission technologies that will bring TV into the internet age with non-real-time and internet functionality, as well as more flexible new ways for TV broadcasters to reach consumers wherever they go. We are so fortunate to work in such a dynamic and exciting industry. It's about the only industry in the world that continuously improves year after year with amazing innovations matched with falling prices. To be sure, price erosion has put tremendous profit pressure on manufacturers and retailers over the years. But for better or worse, it's what consumers have come to expect and is a major driver for innovation. Back in the 1960s, it was common to invest several $100s for a small screen, 19-inch black and white TV. Just look at what happened in the average price of TV as compared with the increase in the cost of living. The end result is that consumers benefit from more features, and the cost of a new set continues to be driven down by innovation, competition, and sheer supply and demand. But falling prices aren't the real story. Frankly, neither are bigger screen sizes. The real amazing part of the past 5 decades is how innovation has shaped our industry. Innovation drives consumer electronics, period. We've seen it over and over, from the development of UHF receivers on black and white TVs early in my career, and solid-state chassis, to bigger picture tubes, to more and more advanced ICs, to high-definition digital TV, and today's world of smarter, flatter, and more mobile screens. Working in consumer electronics, you soon learn to design a product that can be mass-produced. And it's not like building a one-of-a-kind or even a few-of-a-kind. You have to design for the mass market with components that have huge tolerances. That's no small feat. It takes the concentrated work of a lot of players from many different disciplines. In the product and development process, if you are both competitive and collaborative, you will meet a lot of dedicated, hardworking people. One piece of advice that I've learned, I think it's important to fill in the blanks, and that you take time to value the contributions of your colleagues. Those could be colleagues from your own company or even a competitor. Take the time to listen. You never know when your perceived adversary may end up on the same side. There's a wonderful example in Zenith's past history about the value of cooperation to solve a persistent problem. Zenith's founder, Commander Eugene McDonald, couldn't stand television commercials, so he directed his engineers to work on early concepts for pay TV, beginning, believe it or not, in the early 1950s. And by the mid-1950s, he was delighted to greenlight a lab project that showed how a beam of light could be used for the first time to control a TV set, and particularly to mute the sound during those annoying commercials, as Zenith ads said at that time. Eugene Polly was the young engineer who started tinkering with a flashlight and in short order developed the Flashmatic remote control. You could sit in your easy chair and control channel changing, mute the sound, and turn the set on and off. Not bad for 1955. And parenthetically, it should be noted that channel change at that time was done via stepping motors, long before electronic tuners replaced mechanical tuners. But a flashlight-based remote system wasn't perfect. That's where Zenith's Dr. Robert Adler came in. Among his many innovations was the ultrasonic remote control that worked by striking precisely tuned rods and which had no batteries. The Zenith Space Command remote put the power in your hands to change channels and control the sound on your TV just by pushing a button. And while IEEE Life Fellow Adler was credited with 180 US patents, his most memorable contribution is probably the ultrasonic remote. Zenith Space Command was such a remarkable innovation that it was the subject of TV advertisements that highlighted the fact that no batteries or cords were needed for ultrasonic TV control, and it even worked from an adjacent room, so line of sight was not required.
After a hard day at the office, to relax. That's why Zenith Space Command is so wonderful. For it lets you tune TV without moving from your easy chair. Look, no wires, no batteries. Just touch a button. A silent signal turns your Zenith on. Changes channels. Adjusts volume. Turns sound off, on. or turn sound and picture completely off and on. You never leave your chair. This is Space Command, available on Zenith consoles, table models, and portables. One of many great advances from Zenith, where the quality goes in before the name goes on.
When I joined Zenith in 1964, the ultrasonic remote was the norm. It was the industry standard for a quarter century. And TV makers shipped some 9 million units in the US by the early 80s, before ultrasonic was replaced by infrared and electronic RF remotes. As an epilogue to the saga of the remote control, I know of no TV sold for many recent years without a remote control. Dr. Bob used to say that research and development need to continue, as they are the key to the future, because that is what got us here today, research and development. I think we can all agree with that. In Zenith Labs in the 1960s, we were also working on surface acoustic wave filters to replace coils and other components for integrated TV tuners. And of course, development of color TV was in its heyday. While RCA had been first to market with a practical all-electronic color set in 1954, Commander McDonald made it clear that Zenith would not experiment on American consumers. RCA carried the ball with color, virtually on its own, until Zenith and others joined with color sets in the early 60s. One by one, the major TV networks followed suit. First was RCA's NBC network, and then ABC went all color, and then by the mid-60s, CBS. Things didn't really take off with color TV until the 1969 introduction of technologies like Zenith's Chromacolor, the first black matrix. Sometimes in your career, you may toil in the vineyards without bearing any fruit. That was the case for me in the mid-1970s, working in a remote location and trying to develop integrated circuit technology. We were mounting chips on ceramic substrates, a technique that ultimately was not widely commercialized. But with all the success in our consumer industry, you couldn't begin to think about it without the concurrent development of semiconductor technology. Semiconductors drive TVs, computers, cell phones, dishwashers, washing machines. They make these products cost-effective and sellable. Sometimes, of course, the marketing hype gets ahead of what's really possible. Even back in the 1960s, we talked about flat panel television that you could hang on a wall. And well into the 90s, it always was promised to be just 10 years away. Most consumers probably have no idea that flat panel TV technologies were being developed and perfected in laboratories around the world decades ago. Here's some early Zenith work in the 1970s.
Looking farther into the future, someday we may watch TV on large flat panels. It's a long way from this experiment to commercial use in people's homes. But there is the promise of a very large image on a panel no thicker than a framed painting.
HDTV, for the first several years, were projections and CRT based. In the late 1990s, the era of wall-hanging TV finally arrived as digital high definition was taking hold in the United States and around the globe. More than 25 years ago, Zenith started down the path of spectrum-compatible advanced television with AT&T Bell Labs. It was the first partially digital system that proved the concept of simulcast broadcasting. These developments were key building blocks for the all-digital HDTV systems of the early 1990s. One of Zenith's main contributions to the industry enabled TV simulcasts with the previously unused taboo channels that could be used to add in the DTV VSB transmissions without interference from or interference to analog signals. We tested our concepts at the Advanced Television Test Center in Washington, D.C., and eventually, thanks to the gentle prodding of the FCC's Advisory Committee head and former FCC Chairman Dick Wiley, the competing proponents worked on creating the best of the best Grand Alliance system beginning in 1993. It was a great adventure in cooperation and collaboration to be part of the digital HDTV Grand Alliance, a groundbreaking alliance of fierce competitors such as RCA, Philips, and General Instrument, which worked together to develop what is known as the A53 ATSC digital TV standard, today's North American DTV standard. When you work in an arena where there's no definitive decision-making process, you conclude that cooperation is the only way you're going to get there. It's a continual give and take, and like a marriage, otherwise you don't get anywhere. High-definition TV had started with a system from Japan's NHK. It was analog and consumed 1.5 channels, 9 megahertz, to broadcast just one HDTV program. That led to a quest by American companies like Zenith, AT&T, and RCA to develop a U.S. HDTV system, and by Chairman Wiley's advisory committee to oversee the complex competitive process and ultimately propose to merge the various systems. It was the Grand Alliance system that was ratified by the Federal Communications Commission on Christmas Eve in 1996, a profound decision that still ripples throughout our industry. On reflection about the Grand Alliance experience, I think there are important lessons to be learned. Listen. Listen to what your in-house and out-of-house colleagues are doing. Look for win-win solutions. You can compete forever and end up with nothing that consumers and industry will embrace. It doesn't have to be a battle to the death, as it was with the beta and VHS recording wars, in which arguably the better technology with a better picture quality lost. But the better consumer-accepted system won out, the system that could record 2 hours on each tape. Now we stand before another major decision. Should the digital TV systems in place around the world be adapted, improved, and enhanced to merge with internet connectivity and to permit new features and functionalities made possible by advanced compression? Obviously, research and development plays a critical role here. I know we shall all want the innovations that deliver better products to consumers and more flexibility for broadcasters and programmers. Looking ahead to the future, it seems to me that several trends bear repeating. First, we've seen a globalization of the TV business. Once dominated by American brands like RCA, Zenith, Magnavox, Motorola, Admiral, and Philco, and European brands like Philips, Telefunken, Siemens, and Thomson, the world is changing. The Japanese dominance that superseded the Americans and Europeans has been quickly overtaken by the South Koreans. And now, new brands and new approaches are emerging, including China's rapidly expanding TV industry. New players are on the field, and several familiar names are investing heavily to transform the viewing experience beyond the familiar and comfortable confines of cable, satellite, and broadcast networks. Now it appears that the internet itself may hold the key to a more connected, cohesive, and on-demand world. New standards are being developed that make it possible for viewers to cull the latest news from a variety of broadcast and online sources and search and play almost any program ever made available. And new technologies will bring life-saving emergency alerting via broadcasting, 4G, and the internet to any device, anywhere. That said, I believe you must have a long view on these technologies. What is past is prologue. The first remote controls are the grandfathers of today's search engines. And you could have predicted, and who could have predicted, even just a few years ago, the wired and wireless on-demand world that exists today. In the 1960s, we had a goal of a TV that hung on the wall like a picture frame. We believed it could happen, and it did. We just didn't realize how long it was going to take. So we must choose carefully when making predictions about the future. The move from one technology to another will probably take longer than you think. Just look at the flat panel. It's not about plasma or LCD. It's about a shift in consumer buying habits and available products. Advanced television work started in the mid-1980s. It wasn't standardized and approved by the FCC until the middle 1990s. And it took another 13 years until 2009 before high-power analog TV channels in the United States were finally turned off. The road ahead is even more exciting for manufacturers, broadcasters, studios, and content creators as well. The next generation ATSC 3.0 standard will bring new flexibility and new opportunities for over-the-air TV stations. Mobility will continue to work in importance. Internet-connected smart TV is already a standard feature in most big-screen TV sets, merging the immediacy of live TV with the deep catalog of streamed content and the information-rich internet. But I also believe that we must have patience. This stuff takes time. After all, many of our technology transitions have ended up in the dustbin of history. Traditional waters are sometimes littered with technologies that get thrown overboard. Remember 8-track tape, AM stereo radio, the video cassette, and the laser disc? As a longtime observer of television, it's obvious to me that the road ahead is for TV products that are bigger and better, including Ultra HD 4K and even giant 8K screens with stunning picture quality. But TV is also better and smaller, with more mobile options to bring live broadcast content to viewers watching on tablets, smartphones, watches, and any number of future devices. Television of tomorrow will be all at once bigger and smaller. A home theater and a theater on the go. Personalized with programming tailored to you and able to receive live images from anywhere on the planet, whether delivered by an antenna, cable, satellite, cellular, or internet connection. Content itself will be more personalized and targeted, but also offer more choices to let millions experience the same thing at one time. In short, the research and development teams of the future will be looking at how to make our world even smaller, from information sources rich with the world's knowledge to live telecasts delivered to even bigger and ever smaller screens. And in the end, the same familiar axiom applies, because success in consumer electronics is more than just great technology. It takes innovation matched with a better experience for the consumers and the right mix of product, price, and promotion to keep consumers coming back again and again. As I look back and forward, I would be remiss if I didn't thank my company, Zenith, and now LG, and the hundreds of colleagues I've had the privilege of working with for the opportunity to play my small role in this amazing, dynamic consumer electronics industry. I've been fortunate to have worked with our industry's true pioneers, men who developed innovations like FM stereo, stereo TV, like the wired remoteless control and pay TV systems, like large color displays and advanced ICs. I've had many great mentors over the years, people who have been dedicated to constant improvement and innovation excellence, including industry luminaries like Carl Eilers, Charlie Hoyer, Carl Horn, and Bob Adler, all of Zenith, plus Norm Parker of Motorola, and RCA's Dave Carlson and Bernie Lechner, to name just a few. It's been a great ride over the past 50 years, but my sights are set on the next 50 years and the possibilities that consumer electronic innovations will bring to consumers throughout the world. Thank you very much. Good job.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Other questions from the audience? I'm pretty sure there are. Oh, Scott.
Hi Wayne, that was a really, really excellent presentation. I do have a question for you. For the past 50, 60, 70 years, we've been told what to watch, when to watch, how to watch. When do you think that the consumer is going to start to say, no, I want to watch what I want to watch when I want to watch it? More importantly, when do you think the broadcaster is going to get that message?
Well, I think you're seeing that now with various delivery mechanisms. Certainly, a lot of programming is available when you want it, whenever you want it via the internet. Now, that's not true for some of our major kind of like sporting events and things, but there are still lots of advantages of what we call the one-to-many broadcast television. Major events, be it political events, be it sport events, that are common, are best delivered through one-to-many technologies, such as terrestrial broadcast, where one signal gets you 100 million people at one shot. But when you do want to watch something and go back into the archives and look at older programs, that stuff's available. It's available out there on the internet. I say it's available. Not everything is available because many high premium content programs have not been released by the owners of those programs, and for good reasons. It's a dollar and cents issue is what it's about.
Interactive television is also something. Interactive television. Sorry. Interactive television is something that has also been around in some form since at least the 80s. Do you think that the current crop of smart TVs are now the pinnacle of what interactive TV can be, or do you see that there's still somewhere to go, and if so, what would be your insights in terms of what direction they should take? Thank you.
Well, I think you can probably answer your own question, or people in this room can answer the question, that we're probably on the tip of the iceberg for the feature aspects of it. There's new products literally every week associated with the skills of navigating back and forth and getting what you want and making them more consumer friendly. Navigation is extremely cumbersome, I think, and for those of us, and maybe I should say maybe those of us who have children and grandchildren, they're very good at navigating through some of that stuff. And some of the rest of us, it's not so easy to navigate because we haven't grown up like my 3-year-old granddaughter has by starting to play with an iPhone.
Other questions? Nahum?
I can't escape comparing the story of TV and thinking about the future to what I see already in computing devices. Nowadays, when I do my work, I move smoothly from a computer to my iPhone to my tablet. And it goes through the whole day. Wherever I am, I have a device. And do you think television is going to go? I mean, I see some signs it's going to go that way. I think continue to go that way. Now, people stream everything on any device that they had. So the TV as we know it, like going to the living room, sitting on a couch and watching it, are maybe disappearing. Everybody in home wants to watch another thing, so everybody has their own devices, and more than one device per person. So the whole TV experience as we know it actually will disappear.
Well, my thinking on that is they're going to coexist, at least for a long time. I know there was one slide perhaps where you saw 2 younger people with tablets or something in hand, but yet the mom was sitting there with a remote control, obviously watching a large screen TV someplace, okay? So, you know, it's going to be different habits, and it depends an awful lot on content and the type of content and is it available. You cannot get the Super Bowl, for instance, on your tablet, or you can if somebody broadcasts it to the tablet, but it's not streamed because the content providers are not providing that information at the same time. Will they? Probably yes, but it all revolves around dollars and cents because content providers, they have value, they have a lot of value, and they want to get reimbursed for that value to have it delivered anytime, anywhere, any place. Via other technology. Does that help?
Scott?
But it's interesting. I'd like to follow that up, actually. I'd like to follow that up because it kind of goes back to the question I was just asking, because recent surveys have actually just gone out and said if you've got a targeted audience and you can tailor-make adverts to that particular audience. So take the Super Bowl example. I'm watching a Super Bowl at home. It's 11:30 in the evening. It's a time for a beer, just before bed sort of thing. And they can target adverts to me. The return on investment is 10 times what I would get if I was watching the Super Bowl on TV, where the adverts coming forward are about cars or ladies' products, etc. So again, it comes back to that issue that I'm surprised that the broadcasters or the providers of this information haven't quite realized yet there is this huge advantage of moving away from the one-to-many.
Sure, and you'd like to get the car advertisement that's available where you live, not where I live, Absolutely. And the beer that you can buy at your store and not the beer that I can buy at my store. Okay.
Absolutely.
And that's an important consideration and being looked at with the ATSC 3.0 next generation system, and I dare say through the more worldly or globally future broadcasting TV, the FOB TV exercise as well, that being able to target advertising is considered to be extremely important. It's not really any different than the internet because you know, whether you're Google or Amazon, you know, you're concerned about the demographics of the audience. And if you bought certain types of programs or a certain type of books, guess what you're going to get indulged with in terms of that. And, you know, that's bang for the buck for the advertising. And yes, I believe the advertisers, the broadcasters understand that. At the moment, they don't have the technology to deliver it.
Maybe a final question? Tom?
So Wayne, I hope that you might be willing to write this up as an article for the magazine.
I have written articles for the magazine.
Yes, I know you have.
Well, that's a kind of a commercial for everybody. For our consumer magazine, we all need to be writing articles. I know you have written more than I have, Tom. I agree to that.
But you've been writing longer.
But our magazine hasn't been that long. Anything else?
So thank you very much,
thank you
Wayne,
very
again,
much.
and the ICC.